Today, we're going to deconstruct a document that, quietly works behind the scenes to keep all of us safe. ICH Q9R1. It's basically the official rulebook for managing risk in the pharmaceutical world. And, honestly, understanding it is absolutely key to making sure that every single pill, vaccine, and treatment is as safe and effective as it can possibly be. So, let's see how it all works. At its core, this entire guideline is really designed to answer this one crucial question. Just think about the journey a single pill takes, from some raw chemicals all the way to a sealed bottle in your medicine cabinet. That journey is incredibly complex, and every single step, every little decision, carries a potential risk that could, at the end of the day, impact a patient's health. And that leads us to a fundamental truth of this whole industry, and it's the central challenge that ICH Q9 is built to solve. The fact that there's always some level of risk baked into every single dose of medicine ever made. I mean, really think about it. From sourcing the raw materials to the final distribution, there are just countless points where things could go wrong. And we're not just talking about the quality of the product, but its safety and even its availability. A seemingly simple manufacturing issue can trigger a massive drug shortage, which is a really direct and serious harm to patients who rely on that medicine. So, how in the world do you manage that level of risk? Well, just reacting to problems after they happen? That's not going to cut it, not when patient safety is on the line. You need a proactive, systematic framework, and that is exactly what ICH Q9R1 gives us. Okay, so this is the official definition of quality risk management, or QRM. Now, the keywords to lock onto here are systematic and lifecycle. Systematic just means it's a structured process, not guesswork. And lifecycle tells you it's not a one-time check. Nope. It's a continuous loop of assessment and review that lasts from the second a drug is even conceived until it's completely off the market. Now, you might be thinking a guideline this important has got to be incredibly dense and complicated, but really the entire philosophy of quality risk management is built on just two simple but really powerful principles. That's it, just two. And what's amazing is that if you really get these two ideas, you basically understand the entire philosophy of this guideline. They are the foundation for every single decision that's made. Let's take a look at the first one. First, every decision has to be based on science. This means no gut feelings, no, well, this is how we've always done it. It has to be rooted in actual data. And second, all of that science has to connect back to one thing, protecting the patient. That's the ultimate yardstick. Does this decision help or harm the patient? That is always the number one question. The second principle is all about proportionality. Or put simply, don't use a sledgehammer to crack a nut. A minor, well-understood risk might just need a quick note in the system. But a huge, complex risk that could cause serious patient harm? Whoa, okay, that's going to require a full-scale investigation. The effort you put in has to match the level of risk you're facing. All right, so with those two principles as our guide, base it on science and make the effort match the risk, how do we actually put this into practice? Well, it all comes down to a clear four-step process. This is the engine of QRM, and it's a continuous loop. It's not a one-and-done deal. You start by assessing the risk, then you figure out how to control it. Next, you communicate your findings to everyone who needs to know, and finally, you review, which a lot of the time leads you right back to assessment as new information pops up. It's a living process that really never stops. That first step, risk assessment, is the most critical. And it all boils down to these three simple questions. First, what might go wrong? That's identifying the hazard. Second, what's the likelihood it will go wrong? That's your probability. And third, if it does go wrong, what are the consequences? That's the severity. By answering these three, you can really start to understand and get your arms around any risk. So that's the theory. But what does this actually look like in practice, in the day-to-day operations of a pharmaceutical company? This is that principle of proportionality in action. For a low-level, pretty well-understood risk, the process can be informal. Maybe it's just handled within the quality systems you already have. But for a high-level risk with a ton of uncertainty, you've got to ramp up the formality. Dedicated reports, specialized tools, and a full team of experts to really dig into the problem. The guideline also gives you this powerful toolkit of methods, and this is just a little sample. You've got simple tools like flowcharts, but also more advanced, heavy-duty ones. For example, an FMEA is a way to systematically brainstorm everything that could possibly go wrong before it ever happens. HACCP, on the other hand, is all about finding the critical points where you can best prevent hazards. The key isn't to use every tool, but to pick the right one for the job. So where does all this work get applied? The answer is pretty much everywhere. Quality risk management isn't the job of some single department tucked away in a corner office. No way. It has to be woven into the very fabric of the entire operation, from how a new facility gets designed to how the final product is packaged, labeled, and shipped out the door. It has to be a part of everything. After looking at all these processes and principles and tools, it's really easy to get lost in the details. But it's so important to remember why this all exists in the first place. And this is the payoff. This is why it all matters. When QRM is done right, you get safer products and fewer drug shortages. Internally, you make smarter, data-driven decisions. Externally, regulators have more confidence in what you're doing. It creates this culture of continual improvement, where every single benefit ultimately flows back to one place: the patient. And that brings us to the final big question. The entire spirit of ICH Q9 is about making a fundamental shift. It's about moving away from a reactive stance of just fixing problems to a truly proactive one of preventing them before they can ever cause harm. It's a massive change in mindset, and it's ultimately what keeps our medicines safe.